for female founders in the fintech industry. On the occasion of the International Women's Day, I am really excited to host three of our fintech female founders that's been part of the FinTech Hive journey. We are very inspired and so excited to have them with us. We are dedicating this webinar Wednesday session to discuss the opportunities for female founders in the fintech industry. Women empowerment is a movement I strongly believe in and have constantly supported across my career. And I am proud to say that this year the UAE became a MENA region leader in supporting women's economic empowerment, according to the World Bank's 2021 Women Business and Law Report. The UAE government believes in women's role in contributing to the economy, and we have seen the support at the highest level of this country that make us all so proud. The recent Mars mission was led by Her Excellency Sarwa Al-Amiri. We are so proud of her and of the UAE on achieving this milestone. We can see that the UAE has created an enabling environment for women to thrive by launching many initiatives, allowing women to play an even stronger role in the ecosystem. Today, we have a panel of strong female fintech founders, and together we will be discussing the characteristics of women entrepreneurs, the soft skills women bring to the table, and the success stories of female founders and more. And we would like to inspire more women to join this journey, to explore the possibilities, and to be part of the fintech industry. Today, we have on the panel Nadine Mezher. Nadine is a co-founder and CMO of Sarwa, an accomplished marketing and communication strategy leader with over 20 years of experience. Nadine has an impeccable track record of delivering high-end projects for clients ranging from startups to government entities and large-scale companies, and has previously worked for Dubai Tourism as a retail strategy consultant. Nadine studied marketing, earned her bachelor in business administration from the American University of Beirut, and holds a degree in design from Esmord, Paris. We also have Dalal Alrayes from Kuwait. Dalal is a co-founder of Spare, a fintech startup that helps people manage their money. Prior to founding Spare, Dalal worked as an investment manager at Global Investment House private equity team, where she worked closely with portfolio companies across the Middle East and helped increase their value by turning around their operations, restructuring management, and redefining product offering. Before that, Dalal worked in hedge funds, investing across different strategies, including technology, distressed asset, as well as the Asia-Japan market. Dalal is a full-stack web developer and is passionate about technology and education. We also have Monika Manoj. Monika is the COO of Finllect, the first financial wellness app for Gen Z in the region to build responsible credit, pre-qualify for financial services, and automate their finances. Monika leads growth and operations at Finllect and played an instrumental role in scaling Finlect's community of users. Monika is an accomplished fintech production software engineer with strong technical background in payments processing, card implementations, and fraud management systems. Monika is also a social accessibility advocate, having previously scaled a nonprofit to upskill the blue-collar workforce in the region to optimize their productivity and help them identify jobs within noteworthy global scale-ups. Monika earned her bachelor's in computer science and engineering. Welcome to the panel, ladies. I'm so excited to host the three of you. And I would like each of you to please, maybe we can start with Nadine, give us a little bit about your background and your journey to date, and how did you join the fintech industry? What have inspired you?
Thank you, Raja, and hi to everyone that's with us today. I think you did a very good job just doing the intro, but I can tell you very quickly that I come from a very multidisciplinary background. So as you mentioned, I've worked, studied in marketing and management. I've also done a lot of different industries where I focused on mainly retail strategy and brand positioning. Been here in Dubai. So I grew up in Saudi. Very quickly about my background, grew up in Saudi, went back to Beirut for my studies, then went to Italy, then France, then came to the UAE. So I've been here for 13 years. I'm also a mom. So I have 3 kids that were all born and raised here. And with my co-founders, we launched Sarwa 3 years ago. So at the time I was, as you mentioned, consulting for a lot of different companies after my work with the government, because I left my job that I absolutely adore because I wanted to have a third child. So I was balancing the career and being a mom. But then I met my co-founders and they really saw an opportunity, Raja, as you know very well the
I
story of
was there.
Sarwa was born in the FinTech hive, actually. So it was really our launch pad. And that was 3 years ago. We launched it because we wanted to help people in the region invest their money, their hard-earned money into long-term investing and do it in a safe environment and be able to build wealth and to basically better their future. And we just announced also Sarwa Trade, something I can talk about maybe a little bit later, but we're very excited about that too.
Dalal, what about you? How is the startups ecosystem in Kuwait, and how did you decide to just join or co-found a fintech startup?
So the startup ecosystem in Kuwait is definitely booming. I would say, to give a little bit of background, yani, like you said, my background is in finance. I've been working in finance my whole career. I've been very interested in the field. When I went, I went to pursue my, I left after working for a couple of years in Kuwait. I went to do my master's in London. And there, I started to think about, oh, there's a lot happening in startups. There's a lot happening in entrepreneurship. At that time, there was stuff happening in Kuwait there, but not that much in, let's say, fintech or finance. And I pursued time there where I got educated in what was happening in technology. It opened my eyes completely to a world that I did not know about. And then I moved back to Kuwait almost 4 years ago, and that's when we started thinking about Spare. My co-founder also has a background in finance, and we started to think about, there are a lot of things that we have access to برا الكويت, whether you've spent time in London or the US, that we don't have clearly بالكويت, even in the GCC region itself. When it comes to our finances, everything is managed by our banks, and that's your source of information, and you have to take it as it is. We wanted to have a source where your information about your finances was more clear. You could make better decisions for yourself, and we could work together and collaborate with the banks. And that's where Spare came to life. Who right now, with what's happening with Spare and what's happening in the market with the launch of open banking, or let's say the safe way banks can share customer data with technology companies who can provide better services for users. It's happening now in the region, in Bahrain, Saudi. It's getting mandated all over the region. We're now looking at those markets and trying to launch Spare there, inshallah.
It's amazing because it's all, whether it's Sarwa or Spare or even Finllect, it's all related to financial behaviors and financial literacy that we really never were taught. It's a skill that is acquired by some of us at certain points of time. Monika, I think you can also build on this because Finllect is all about creating these habits.
Exactly. And I think Dalal and Nadine both have hit the nail right at the dot, because this market actually demands more information and people want that, like especially young people. In my experience as an engineer, as a female founder, and interestingly enough, all of my startups have been completely female founded, right? When we're on the ground, we're speaking to people, whether it's blue collar workers or millennials or Gen Zs, one thing that everybody wants access to is information, and is I would say qualified and clean information that is simple to understand and easy to extract actionable points to actually improve their financial health using this information that we are providing to them. So I think that's pretty much where Finllect was born, right? From this serious need to get access to better information and get access to better financial services and to get access to the ecosystem. So it's almost like we're a bridge between banks or financial service providers such as Sarwa and Spare, and we connect them to these young customers. So I think it's a great space to be in, especially for women, because we definitely know how to connect the dots when they need to be, right? So yeah, that's a little bit about us at Finllect and a little bit about me.
So Monika, you and Maimouna, both ladies, and both are engaged in the finance and technology, which are
exactly
male-dominated sector. How did you penetrate? How did you find exploring this sector? Was it hard? Was it easy? Did you take your chance? What helped you? What worked? What didn't?
So it is challenging. I won't say it's hard. It's challenging, and it's a challenge worth taking. The tech aspect of things, there is a higher penetration. Women are still, getting into STEM, trying to, get into jobs that actually are completely focused on technology. So for us, the way we saw it was there's this huge funnel of female talent. Then there's the STEM filter, where we reduce some, and there's another filter, which is finance. And then there's very, very few women that actually make it to FinTech, right? So we see it both as a challenge and as an opportunity. Because there's fewer women in this region, there's more space for us to bring more women on board. So definitely because of our age, we're dramatically younger, right? We had to build our network, and we really had to find the right people, have the right conversations. But when we got that rolling, things became more seamless and more simple, especially when it comes to speaking to banks, because 80 to 90% of people that we speak to there are all men, right? So their perspective and their approach to Finllect and to us as a company led by women is, quite different and quite unique. And in comparison to a startup that's led by men, they're less welcoming. But I can confidently say that we've let that, we've taken that head on, and we can see that there is a change. We can see men wanting to become advisors and wanting to become a part of Finllect now. So yes.
Nadine, your two co-founders are two amazing men, Jad and Mark. And how was your journey? Where are the areas that you would say were more natural to you as the female part of the brain in designing the whole Sarwa concept? Especially, I know your background is in marketing. I think you guys are doing an amazing work when it comes towards marketing the values, the proposition, and acquiring customers of Sarwa. So how was your experience, and where do you think the most value was contributed by you?
I really like that question. Raja, we are told a lot that women have a lot of desirable analytical and soft skills, because that's kind of what we bring to the table as value add, but there's a lot of more to that. And the reality is, like you said, we're three co-founders, right? And I know that we talk a lot about women trying to fundraise, women being in that environment and how tough it is. I had a different experience. I've had actually a business before which was full women founders, but we were self-sufficient when it comes to fundraising. So I didn't go through that exercise precisely. Today, when I'm going through it, I have, like you said, my wonderful co-founders, Mark and Chad. So it's a bit of a different environment for us, but we do balance each other a lot. You'd be surprised that actually me and Mark, we have a lot of common traits when it comes to, we want to get things done quickly. We want to do, and execute fast. And Jad is a little bit more of the structured, let's think about it, let's analyze. So I think regardless of men or women, we do definitely need a good balance between co-founders to be able to really be successful. But generally speaking, you see a lot of attributes that are specific to women when it comes to being, I don't want to use the word risk averse, but it's more analytical and more long-term thinkers, because that's also one of, maybe it's a value that was ingrained in us as, through education and through society, is just be more empathetic, think about others, be caregivers, be caretakers. So we're always, thinking steps ahead, right? But I do believe that this is something that can be taught also to our boys.
True. And you know what I love about this panel is we have Nadine, who's really into the vision and the planning and the strategy and the marketing. And then we have Dalal, full-time developer, super technical. So Dalal, and that proves that we can fit any box given that we have built that expertise in. Dalal, how was it for you? And I know, I mean, technical is a very specific language, and it's not very easily communicated when pitching or when trying to share your vision. How was your experience with your co-founder, with the stakeholders, investors, if you're raising funding, or even when you are pitching your solution?
So experience is definitely a plus. So having, I would say that having the background in finance to begin with was a plus. And that always helps. I think with jumping into startups, you're bringing some subject matter expertise to what you're doing. Having the background in technology and being able to speak about it. Today I'm not spending time as a co-founder writing the code. However, I am leading our dev team. I can communicate very clearly with my dev team. I can understand what they're going through, what they're building, what challenges they're facing, how to communicate with we're working directly with the banks. I am the point of contact with the banks between our dev team and the banks. Sometimes the banks are like, who is the right person to speak to about this? You always get those kinds of questions, and sometimes
They say it's me.
the assumption, it's me. Yeah, you're gonna talk to me, and then if there's an issue that I can't solve, I'm gonna have to go back to my dev team. There is a little bit of that, but خلاص, you develop, تتعودين, you get used to it. It's fine. So I think when it comes to both any partners you work with, any investors, having the experience, the knowledge definitely is a plus with that. Plus, I think, and just to chime into what Nadine said earlier, the experience with having a female team is different with a mixed, let's say, a mixed team or a mixed gender team. It brings, I work on another startup. I'm a co-founder of a preschool in Kuwait, and it's given the laws and like the structure of a preschool in Kuwait, you can't have males work on that. So it's a full woman team, and مثل ما Nadine was saying, it's self-sufficient. You don't need to fundraise. However, when it comes to fundraising with a male, I think it definitely helps because you're showing your investors that you have a diverse team who can look at the world in a diverse way, into you're building a product that is for everyone. So if your team already is just one-sided, you're not thinking about whether it's a team full of males building a product that is supposed to be for males and females. That's where I think it helps to have a mixed gender team, both with fundraising and with what you're building.
So
there was a statistic this week حتى من Docs, and they ran a study on pre-seed startups and compared in 2020 the amounts that were fundraised. Mixed gender teams, male teams, all male teams raised almost 40% more than all female teams. But mixed gender teams raised 55% more than all male teams. Investors definitely value that.
Absolutely. And Dalal, you mentioned that you've started another startup. Nadine mentioned that they just launched another product, and Monika mentioned multiple startups that she's been working with. Is it easy to just launch or co-found a startup, and then does it become like a passion and addiction? You can go from one to another, or is it like horrifying? You do one.
In all fairness, I'm focusing on Spare. Alhamdulillah, I have a great co-founder with the preschool who is managing that, and I chime in and help with that, but I'm not a full-time co-founder on that. Spare is enough on my plate for me to manage my life and Spare. I don't think you can do a lot of things because your energy goes where your attention flows. So like if you're not paying that much attention to something specific, it's going to be hard.
Honestly, my observation from the entrepreneurs and the startups from the FinTech Hive and the ecosystem is that it becomes a very exciting journey. So when you launch a product, you get excited about launching the second one, and then you get used to the structure. And then, you enjoy every time you launch a new feature or a new product. So this calls for more participation from others to try and become entrepreneurs. Monika, what are the characteristics of women entrepreneurs in your view?
So I strongly think that there's number one is resilience, of course, in addition to having technical skills, expertise, and all of that. But I do think resilience and I think honesty and communication. These three to me are the pillars of being successful as an entrepreneur, whether you're a woman or a man. And I think the reason why I say these things is because you need to be able to communicate your challenges or your achievements very, very clearly to your peers or to the people around you to be able to be successful as an entrepreneur. So one of the people that I look up to is Joy Aluni. She's the founder of Fetcher, and she always says that you are a walking talking representation of your brand or your product at any given point. And if as an entrepreneur you're not able to communicate that, then I think that's something that needs to be worked on. So yeah, these are the three things: so resilience, honesty, and the ability to communicate.
Absolutely. For our audience, if anybody have any questions, please type them in the Q&A box and we will get to them at the end of the session. Meanwhile, I go back to Nadine. Nadine, what are the soft skills that women bring to the table?
Soft skills that women bring to the table. Again, I mentioned before, our ability first. Okay, I don't want to generalize or stereotype, but we do tend to multitask because it is something. I was on a panel, Raja, the other day, and we were talking about the women feel always the need to prove and to be better and excel because we were taught not to be entitled somehow, that you have to work hard to get places. And I think it's one of the things that we have ingrained. And as a soft skill, we go back a lot to empathy and to basically, which is something I see a lot in my field, because you need to understand the customer. You need to address a need in the market. You need to make sure that you put yourself in their shoes all the time and you don't fall into the brand bias, because sometimes when you're working on something and you're super passionate about, you end up really forgetting what external people view the product and how they view it and what the needs are. Going back to what Dalal was mentioning about diverse team, again, very important because that's something that gives us that different perspective into the market. So in terms of going back to your question, soft skills, I think this is the number one, soft skill that people attribute to women, I would say. Again, communication. It seems like we are strong in communication. We are strong in balancing everything. And again, very kind of approach to planning that's more long-term than, apparently it seems that men, they're more go-getters, but I really would like to break that stereotype and say that it is not necessarily the case. And we, as we can see from this amazing panel, we are also go-getters and we can make things happen and we are executing, fast and quick, because that's the world we live in.
Absolutely. We have a very nice question that came through from Mariam Faisal. She says, how do you build your network and get men and other diverse team members on board?
On board of
network, yeah. How do you build your network and how do you get them to be part of that network?
Be out there, talk to as many people as you can, but also surround yourself with like-minded people. Find the commonality between you and people that inspire you, and then go after that and find a way to reach them. I'm, when we launched Sarwa, Raja, we, as a lot of the startups, we didn't have a big budget, and put the product out there, and we needed to market it. And I started just reaching out randomly to people on LinkedIn that I thought would share an interest in the story we were telling, because we truly believed in the mission we had, which is helping everyone in the region really build for a better future. And so I'd be like, this is us, this is what we do. And I think that's an angle that would interest you or that you want to talk about in the community. So it's just finding these right people, surrounding yourself with people that value what you bring to the table is extremely important. How do you grow a network? A lot of different ways, but just be open, I would say.
I agree with you, Nadine. I think if I build on what Dalal and Monika have said about communication and what you've said right now, we women naturally don't communicate a lot. We have this, I don't like to generalize, but we sort of shy from asking. And we wait for things to happen. But I've heard so many stories and I've seen so many movies when they would just sit there, pick up the phone and call, and don't really get attached to the response. If it comes, great. If it doesn't, you've done your best. So I think that's also really important.
So, Raja, can I just quickly add to that answer? So, I don't know if you've read, but you should read, Mariam, this book called Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell. He explains, or he basically talks about the art of building the right networks, especially for people who want to, promote an idea or a product, whatever they want to bring into the market or into the society, right? So he has this concept of 150 people that you are directly connected to or have an acquaintance with. So it's all about making sure that the 150 people that you surround yourself with are diverse and bring different things to your network, right? So there's a concept of movers, mavens, and salespeople, right? So go out there and find these people and make them your acquaintances or bring them into your pool of 150. That's one way that works really well. At least that's what we've done at Finllect to build a strong pipeline of advisors, of clients, and even users, I would say. So yeah.
Thank you, Monika. We have also another interesting question, and I think it will bring in a lot of value. When you're starting a startup, as Nadine said, you don't have a lot of funds allocated and you're actually working yourself. Fatima Sayed is asking, saying, I have been building a FinTech project for months, but lack the technology expertise to build the prototype, and the developers are very expensive. How can we network with people who will join without any initial monetary benefits? What would you advise, please?
I can start at that one. I mean, it is a struggle. I think bringing people on board, I mean, there's definitely going to be people who are interested in doing this, whether it's a part-time thing or jumping fully and becoming a partner with you. I think finding the right co-founders is key. Maybe it's a co-founder that starts to put together the development where you guys can build an MVP and then start raising funds for that, and from there build a whole dev team. There are a lot of also tools right now that make things easier. There are a lot of tools that help people build prototypes of what you're trying to put together, and at least without any code at that point. There are a lot of options out there. I wouldn't be demotivated or give up on this idea. There are a lot of options.
Thank you, Dalal. We have lots of questions flowing in. This is nice. So before we get to more questions, what can you ladies tell me, what are the opportunities for female founders and how can we inspire more women to join the ride?
Monika, you want to take that one?
Sure, of course. I think keep your options open, right? So for me, when I graduated as an engineer, I thought the only path is for me to become, a software engineer that does a typical software job, right? But I got the opportunity to explore something that was more than just engineering or more than just computer science, and that's FinTech, right? So keep your options open. I think there are great opportunities just right, in front of you. Like Raja is leading Accelerate Her, which is a great platform for women who are in the field to come and speak to you about, basically everything that they experience. And I think that's great. Another one is find mentors, right? Find women who you think are role models, or even men who are doing a fantastic job in this space, and learn from them, reach out to them, speak to them, ask them questions. And I think another thing that we're doing at Finllect is we're launching a female-focused FinTech fellowship. So if you want to learn something and actually practically do something hands-on, you're open to join our team and, join us with this fellowship. We'll give you the expertise, the access to this world of FinTech, especially in the local market. So yeah.
Thank you, Monika. I think it's really important to note also is that within the startups ecosystem, it's not very structured and it's not very hard to get in. So I think at the very beginning, when you meet the right people and you believe in the solution or the idea that they're trying to create, and they're committing their own time and themselves to really launching this, I think it's a great opportunity to join at that time. And I think That's what has happened, and I have witnessed it in the FinTech Hive so many times. I just see people come together, or even two different startups that come together, put their brains together and create something new. You just need to be around this network. How do you interact with these people? Nadine said, be around like-minded individuals, join communities, programs, reach out to these individuals, comment on their posts, whether it's a blog or on LinkedIn, a comment on Twitter. They will respond to you and you will be able to connect with, thank you for reminding us about Accelerator, Monika. We've launched Accelerator, and by the way, Monika and Maimouna joined Accelerator and then launched Finllect. So for us, it's a beautiful story. She came through Accelerator program and eventually was inspired to launch her startup together with Monika. So find out what opportunities are there, what programs are there. Today, education is disrupted. All the information, all the programs are online, they're virtual. You can have access to all of it from your home or wherever you are sitting. So definitely take opportunity of that. Nadine, what would you say? How can we inspire more women to become entrepreneurs in the FinTech world?
I mean, I love what Monika was saying, is talk to more women in the industry, talk and reach out and get their stories, get their support, and give them benefit of doubt. If, you know, sometimes let's say, I know that some people reach out to me, and unfortunately, as much as I'd love to be able to help everyone, as much as the resource of time is super limited. But I also want to take a step back, and I want to go back to early education, Raja. You know, I have a little daughter and I have two boys, and I truly, truly believe that all of this stems from the values we install in them from when they're young. There's a beautiful study called Draw a Scientist that was done over a span of 50 years, and it shows, you know, little girls and what they perceive a scientist to be. So they asked them to actually draw a scientist. And so 50 years ago, very, very, very few, it's 0.06% of the girls would draw girls. Now that number increased over time simply because the representation of scientists in their mind changed, because the media is showing a little bit more women in STEM. Astronauts, you know, doctors, scientists, mathematicians, and so on. So I do think role models play a major role, but the sad reality is today, it's not a sad reality, more of an opportunity of growth, because we are heading in the right direction. Still more work to be done, but they showed little girls, they asked little girls 6 years old to actually draw the scientist. You had around 70% that drew women. And so that's an amazing improvement. But at the same time, when they become 16, that number dropped to 25%. So it regressed over the years. And we need just to keep telling our girls, do not box yourself. You can do it, believe in yourself, and speak your value, and you can do what you want.
Absolutely. I agree with you, Nadine. Thank you. Dalal, how did the pandemic affect you between managing the startup, working from home, attending to family? In general, how do you think the effect was on you personally and on women in general?
So for Spare, it was great. And I thought, بالعكس, it helped us accelerate a lot of things. So for one thing, in the region, as you know, not everyone accepts everything online, whether it's a company registration or a meeting or whatever it is. Especially we're working with a lot of corporates, with banks, with regulators. Usually everything is done in person. But لما صار pandemic, it became okay or acceptable to have introductions through Zoom or do registrations via web or whatever it is. But actually it helped us a lot to get a lot more done without having to get on a plane and going back and forth to do all that paperwork. Spare's team is remote. We are distributed in different countries. We managed, my co-founder sits out of London, I sit in Kuwait. We have a team in Cairo, we have a team in Tunis. We're used to working remotely. Alhamdulillah, that was a smooth transition for us. And it just made it more comfortable because everyone else was doing it. You weren't the only one who was working remotely. In terms of family, I know that for mothers who have kids at home and had to manage, I'm sure Nadine can chime in more about that. it was a balancing act, and some people were affected by it, but some people have managed to figure out how to do it. I think women are great at wearing different hats and multitasking and scheduling to the minute. Alhamdulillah, I think in terms of that was really helpful. Raja, I wanted to add one thing about what Nadine was saying earlier about getting women in FinTech. I think we're lucky in the region that when we're talking about FinTech, people don't necessarily have to jump into a FinTech company to be part of FinTech. And today, financial institutions and banks are all creating divisions to collaborate with FinTechs. So you can be part of a bank and move to the innovation division, or part of a regulator and move to the innovation division before you make that jump. That's a key benefit to working with the sector without really going into or having to surround yourself in the entrepreneurship community until you're ready to move. I wanted to add
that's true, Dalal. For me personally, the pandemic was at the beginning a major shock because I had to stay home and manage my two kids online, make sure they're attending classes and they're registering at the same time. I had to be on the team meetings. And so in the beginning it was chaotic, but then figured it out and set rules and times, and everyone is following the schedule. Nadine, you have younger kids. How did you manage, especially that you are in a startup? Like I work for a corporate, we have fixed times, so we manage all of our work within those times. But for you, I think it's different because it's a startup, it's family, it's kids, it's pets, it's the whole thing.
I think it's more or less similar, but you're right, because when you're in a startup, there's no defined boundaries between life and work. And that's something, regardless of the pandemic and remote work, we kind of struggle a little bit to put that definition of what is work and what is family life. But during that crazy time, I mean, I'm lucky enough to have, enough space in the house that I don't have to be in the same room with my kids all the time. But it is all about structure and how you, again, define these boundaries and these rules and make sure, they sit on their laptop, because they were doing a lot of e-learning, right? So they are younger. So I just had to keep an eye on them from far, making sure they're sitting there at least, not moving too much. And I had my laptop. So we had configuration in the house of the spaces and who's doing what where. And I mean, I'm blessed. I have really good kids that are very disciplined, so they know what to do. And I made sure that they do. And I just sit on my laptop. And again, like Dalal said, we are a remote company. We are still remote from March till today. We do from time to time team meetings just to get, the team together, because there is still something about seeing, your colleagues face to face from time to time. Which again, Raja, you do also beautifully at the Hive. So it's a balancing act between, again, the work challenges and the family challenges. But I do believe, I'm a big believer in structure. So as long as you have the right structure.
Yeah. And I think also in every challenge, there are opportunities. With the pandemic, although we were moved out of our comfort zone and our structure that we were used to follow for years, it also enabled more women tap into the job market, because they did not have to leave where they were living or staying to be part of organizations. And I know some firms were hiring individuals remotely without really having to fly them over and move them here. So it enabled more participation from women specifically into the job market, which I think is great. We have a very nice question. It's quite long, so I will read it, and then whoever wants to answer it. It's from Nancy Basyuni. She said, "Together we stand, divided we fall. How can we build the dynamics of collaboration, i.e. we need to have a network classified by product offering to help us collaborate even regionally. One fintech working well in one place can partner with another, even in a different country, and they go together in both countries. Cross-border partnership with offerings that complement each other." My answer would be come and be part of FinTech Hive community and you have access to the whole world, but I leave it to you ladies to answer. Nadine, were you able to connect to other opportunities through the Hive and other regions? I think you guys have already registered with SAMA and you're in the sandbox.
CMA, yes. We are part of CMA actually,
And
Capital Market. Yes, so we actually just recently also received the X permit from them. But definitely, I think communities like the FinTech Hive are extremely important. These accelerators, incubators, being part of the ecosystem, it helps you because you see other people going through the same journey. And it gives you that energy to persevere, right? Because being in a startup is incredible. It's extremely rewarding. There are a few bumps along the way, but the reality is when you see it's not only you going through these challenges, then it makes them much easier and smoother. So FinTech Hive helped a lot, not only by building the community, but also because they connect you to the right partners, whether it's, the banks, the mentors, the regulators, which is super important for all the FinTechs. So right now, Sarwa is in Dubai, like you said. So we are part of the Hive. We're in Abu Dhabi, also in ADGM. And now we're expanding into Saudi. But I do believe the community here is very supportive. And whenever, you have any questions or you're thinking of potentially building a new product and you ask the community, we've always seen answers coming back and vice versa.
And by the way, FinTech Hive has relationships with 16 global FinTech hubs. So we keep that relationship open to enable opportunities of collaboration between these hubs. And today we have almost finalized an engagement with Egypt FinTech Association, which is great because that will open a door to Egypt where there's huge potential talent to engage with all of the technical development requirements of all the startups from the region. So definitely we are an ecosystem enabler. The IFC actually just announced the annual results for 2020, which is the record high for the last 16 years. We have more than 300 tech startups registered in the DIFC, and we had only 2 back in 2017. So I am really proud of everything that we have achieved together as an organization. But again, this is all connected towards the innovation agenda that was set by the Prime Minister, understanding that there is an opportunity, and by putting the collective genius, collective minds together, we're able to tap in that area. Ladies, I would like to thank you so much for your time. This has been an exciting conversation. We appreciate your time. Wish you success in your startups, and please remain connected. We'd like to see you again. I'd like to thank our audience for joining, and see you in our next webinar Wednesday.
Thank you, Raja. Great to see you.
Thank you, guys. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.